Hello everyone! Welcome to our channel. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like this video. A poor boy and his rich brother were sitting together in their rickety old house when suddenly the radio in the corner crackled to life. The announcement made by the radio announcer caught them off guard. The brothers looked at each other in disbelief. An opportunity of a lifetime. The radio announcer boomed. The king is offering a reward for anyone who can make him laugh. If you think you have what it takes, come to the palace at noon tomorrow. And you could be the one to claim the hefty prize. The rich brother was the first to break the silence after the radio went quiet. Do you know how much money that would be, Thomas? He asked, turning to his poor brother with a glint in his eye. Thomas, however, was not as excited. He knew that trying to make the king laugh was a near impossible task, yet his brother saw it as the chance of a lifetime, an opportunity to escape their poverty and live a life of luxury. While Thomas shook his head at his brother's naivety, the rich brother wasted no time in preparing for the next day. He spent the night meticulously planning his routine, choosing outfits and practicing jokes until late into the night. On the other hand, Thomas couldn't bring himself to care. He didn't believe they'd be able to fool the king, but mostly he was worried about what might happen to his brother. If he went ahead with this crazy plan, at dawn, the rich brother got up and began preparing himself for his big opportunity. He put on a fine suit he had bought with his last month's salary and rehearsed some more jokes. Thomas watched him, unable to hide his skepticism. Despite his brother's confidence, Thomas just couldn't see how he would succeed in making the king laugh. When it was time, the brothers left their house and headed towards the palace. As they walked, the rich brother continued to practice his jokes, while Thomas kept warning him to be careful. He didn't want his brother to get hurt. The king was known for his unpredictable nature, and sense of humor was subjective, often bordering on cruel. Upon reaching the palace, the rich brother took a deep breath and straightened his suit. It was now or never. The moment he had been preparing for had finally arrived. While his brother nervously waited outside the throne room, the rich brother went in and introduced himself to the king. "My king," he began confidently, "I am here to make you laugh as you requested." The king looked up from the paperwork on his desk, his face unreadable. "Very well," he said, his voice echoing through the grand hall. "Let's see what you have." And with that, the king turned back to his papers, leaving the rich brother to do his thing. For a moment, there was silence. The rich brother tried a joke, but it fell flat. The king didn't even bother to look up. Discouraged, the rich brother tried again, but each attempt was worse than the last. The king, however, remained unmoved, continuing to read his documents with a straight face. As time went on, the rich brother's confidence began to dwindle. His jokes were met with an eerie silence, which only served to make him look more pathetic. Just when he thought things couldn't get any worse, the king finally looked up from his paperwork. The expression on his face was not one of amusement, but of annoyance. "That's quite enough," the king said curtly. "You clearly don't have what it takes to make me laugh. Guards, throw him in the dungeon." Before the rich brother could even respond, 2 burly guards were at his side, dragging him away. He struggled against their grip, but it was no use. They pulled him towards the dungeon door with a strength he couldn't match. As his brother watched in horror, the dungeon door slammed shut, leaving the rich brother in total darkness. The heavy stone door echoed with the finality of a death sentence. Hope, which had flickered brightly in the throne room, now lay shattered and bleeding in the cold, damp dungeon. Thomas ran to the guard captain, desperation edging into his voice. "Please, you have to let me in. My brother doesn't know what he's doing. Please, let me stop him." But the captain remained unmoved. "No one can see the king at this hour, not even you," he replied curtly. "Leave now, before I have you thrown out as well." With a heavy heart, Thomas was forced to leave, his pleas ignored.
The weight of his brother's impending fate pressed down on him, making it hard to breathe.
What was he going to do? The thought of his brother spending the night alone in that dark, dank dungeon filled him with dread. Suddenly, Thomas remembered the key. When he and his brother had sneaked out of their house that morning, he had taken the key with him, a small wooden carving in the shape of a fish. His mother had given it to him, saying it would bring him luck. At the time, he had thought it was silly, but now it was all he had. He ran back home, hoping that his brother hadn't left yet.
Bursting through the door, he found his brother packing a small bag.
"We have to go," Thomas said urgently. "I think I know a way to make the king laugh." The rich brother looked up, surprised. But how? The dungeon. The guards. It's too late. Thomas shook his head. "No, I have the key." "We still have a chance." Taking the key from around his neck, Thomas explained his plan. They would sneak back into the palace and find the king. Then his brother would make the king laugh. With that, the brothers were out the door and running towards the palace once more. They crept closer to the dungeon, the key heavy in Thomas's pocket. As he reached out to open the door, a loud voice boomed behind him. "So, you brought your brother to my palace, knowing he would fail? And then you snuck in yourself to save him? You are a clever one, aren't you?" Startled, Thomas spun around to find the king standing right behind him, a smirk playing on his lips. "How did you know?" Thomas stammered. The king chuckled, a surprisingly hearty sound that echoed in the dimly lit corridor.
It was rather obvious, wasn't it? Come along now. Lead the way.
"I believe we have a show to watch." The king led them back into the throne room, where the flickering candlelight danced in his amused eyes. Seated on his throne, the king signaled for them to come closer. "All right, brother, show me what you got," he said, leaning forward expectantly. The rich brother took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. It was now or never. With the king's attention fully on him, he launched into his routine. The jokes came tumbling out, some witty, some absurd, all in an effort to earn the king's approval. To Thomas's dismay, some of the jokes actually landed, eliciting chuckles from the king. But Thomas knew that a chuckle was not enough. He needed a full-blown laugh, a genuine, unrestrained outburst that would shake the very foundations of the palace. Then, seeing his brother falter, Thomas stepped in. He had an idea, a risky one, but it was their only chance. Ignoring the surprised glances from both his brother and the king, Thomas began to tell a story. A tale so ridiculous, so outlandish, that it bordered on the absurd. As he spoke, his voice rising and falling with exaggerated emotions, the king sat forward in his throne, his eyes gleaming with amusement. For the first time that evening, Thomas saw a genuine smile break out on the king's face. And then it happened. A low rumble of laughter escaped the king's lips, growing louder until it shook the entire room. The king doubled over on his throne, clutching his stomach, as tears of mirth streamed down his face. It was everything Thomas had hoped for, and more.
Relief washed over him, followed by a surge of triumph.
He had done it. He had made the king laugh. When the king finally composed himself, he looked at Thomas, his eyes shining with admiration.
"You, my boy, have a gift," he said, his voice still hoarse from laughter.
"I haven't had a good laugh like that in years." And so, instead of throwing the brothers in the dungeon, the king rewarded them. He gave them both positions in his court, not because of any great need for jesters, but simply because he enjoyed having them around. And who knows? Maybe their brotherly bond, forged in hardship and strengthened by love, had something to do with it as well.